Good afternoon, everybody. For people logged in from India and for people who are logged in from elsewhere, it is good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you are, which part of the world, and when are you listening to it. So most of us are logged in right now, but there's some of us who listen to it later because we are preoccupied. And so my name is Dr. Deepti Verma and I head nutrition for VLCC Institute. And today I've come up with one very interesting topic that you all wanted to know more about, which is gluten. Is it good or is it bad? So we're going to know more about gluten. So gluten primarily is such a staple here in India because we are all hooked to the cereal grains, especially wheat. So wheat as a cereal actually contains a lot of gluten, whereas there are other cereals also that contain gluten. But primarily we'll be talking about wheat because that becomes pretty much a staple kind of a cereal to the kind of diet that we follow. And talking more about gluten. So now let's just start with what is gluten. So gluten, like any other protein, is a protein. And it is a protein which is contained not just in wheat, also in semolina, in barley and in rye. So these are primarily the cereal grains that we all consume. So of course wheat is there, then suji or semolina that we use throughout our country, in fact rather worldwide. Then barley is again which is very rich in protein, gluten, and rye. So these are the products, and everything which is made by these products would contain gluten. So there's been so much of a hype of late where people want to go gluten free. In fact, when we go to the markets, we see there's so many products on the grocery shelves that says that they are gluten free. So hence it is very important for us to know the exact story. So I'll try and bring that around to you as clearly as possible. So yeah, so when we talk about the gluten, so earlier gluten was not called as gluten and it was known as prolamins. So prolamins actually, is a larger umbrella under which falls the different proteins which are contained in different cereals. So of course in wheat, it is the prolamins are the glutenin and the gliadin. So these are the two prolamins. The other ones, like in rye, it is called secalins, and in barley, it is known as hordeins. So, but primarily since we eat wheat, we would be talking about gluten and gliadin, which are the prolamins here. So now what are the foods in which we find a lot of gluten? So of course, like when we talk about grains, as I've already mentioned, that it is wheat, it is barley, it is rye, and it is semolina or suji. And even the cracked wheats and different kind of wheat products that we contain, like cracked wheat primarily is called porridge or dalia that we make in India. So that, and even couscous as a cereal that also contains gluten. Now when we talk about gluten in the processed foods, so in the baked products and in the processed food also, there are many foods that contain gluten. And they are the normal bread that we have, whether it is the white bread or the brown bread, the rusk, the crackers, cookies, different biscuits, cakes, pastries, and the other savory snack items available like samosas, bread pakoras, momos. So all these actually contain gluten because they are made up of maida. So anything which is made with maida would actually have gluten because maida is made from the wheat flour. In fact, it is the refined wheat flour. And when we talk about the other foods and beverages, they also contain gluten. So the other food beverages would include beer, which is also made from the cereal, and also the malt whiskey. Then all the sauces that we get in the market, like white sauce, which is made with maida, and there are various other sauces which are made with maida. The gravies which are thickened by maida again would have gluten in them, and there are lots of salad dressings that we get in the market. So if you really want to know whether that thing contains gluten or not, we can actually read the food label, which would actually be able to tell us that if it has been using gluten as one of the proteins as from the cereal that is used to make that salad dressings or sauces. So these are primarily the foods that contains gluten. Now there is always $1 million question that I'm most commonly asked, that do oats contain gluten? So this actually is, everybody's been very confused about it. So that actually is confusing because, it's not directly, no, it does not contain gluten, but the way oats is transported and the equipments which is used to process the gluten, oats, that actually is common, it's shared with the wheat. So it has some of the remnants of gluten coming into the oats as well. So this is one of the big reasons, and hence you can say that oats are contaminated with the wheat, because that normally it happens because since it carries the same equipment which is shared with the wheat processing, hence oats mostly contain remnants of wheat and hence they contain gluten from there. So we would advise for people who are extremely gluten insensitive or who suffer from celiac disease to not have oats, because as I mentioned, it is not that oats contain gluten, but it contains remnants of wheat because the equipment that oats use for processing is shared with the wheat. And there are various researchers that have actually said that there is, the protein that is contained in the oats, which is known as avenin, that's very similar to gluten. So if somebody is overly insensitive to gluten, then they will have to avoid oats because of the second reason also, because of avenin, which is pretty much similar to wheat. So this is about oats because everybody's been asking and speculating about, whether to have oats if they have a celiac disease or not. So this is the answer to it. It's better to, yes, avoid oats if somebody's been suffering from gluten insensitivity or somebody's been suffering from celiac disease. Now I want to talk to you about the conditions in which we need to give a gluten-free diet totally medically. So the first condition, which is very common, is called celiac disease. So in celiac disease, a person is not able to ingest, digest or absorb gluten at all, or any food that contains gluten. And in this, the person's immune system attacks the cells of the small intestine, and this results into very serious conditions like leaky gut syndrome, bloating, gas, inflammation, reduced immunity, and many other problems. Also problems like IBS, and at times even blood in the stools actually happen. So hence it is advised for people who are suffering from celiac disease to not have any kind of a gluten. And mostly it has been seen that celiac disease actually comes in as an inherited response as a result of the genes that we carry. Then the second condition that I can talk to you about is the non-celiac gluten insensitivity. So when we talk about the non-celiac gluten insensitivity, so if you go for your blood test or if you go for your biopsy, you will see that you really do not have any insensitivity to gluten, and there'll be no reasons to actually call someone as gluten insensitive. It is just that each time when you have gluten or you have a cereal that contains gluten, you are found to be suffering from all those symptoms that gluten insensitivity leads to, like excessive bloating, cramps, inflammation, etc., etc., a lot of indigestion, painful, it's very painful to digest gluten that way. So all these symptoms would be there, although the blood test does not show. So because gluten actually is a slightly inflammatory protein for sure, especially the gliadin which is contained in the wheat, in gluten. So as I mentioned earlier, that gluten is, the umbrella term for this is the prolamine which is contained in the gluten is glutenin and gliadin. So out of that, glutenin is comparatively safer, but gliadin is something that actually causes a bit of havoc in the body for people who are slightly sensitive to gluten. So, and the next condition and the third condition is also known as wheat allergy. So here the person is not sensitive to gluten, but this person is sensitive to wheat as such as a cereal. So it is not always that blaming gluten for all the symptoms or for the bloating and cramps and indigestion and leaky gut syndrome and all of that. So you actually put the villain as gluten. That's not always so. There are also certain carbohydrates which are contained in the wheat. Since wheat is primarily a cereal family, right? And so is semolina and so is barley. So all of these definitely they contain gluten. There's no doubt about it. But they also contain the carbohydrates. In fact, a family of carbohydrates which are known as fructans. So these fructans actually, these are the sugars, and like they also can be, other than fructans, it can also be, they actually, umbrella term for this would be FODMAPs, which is FODMAPs. So these carbohydrates, the umbrella term for these carbohydrates is FODMAPs. Under this, there are three of them. One is fructans, other is galactans, and the third one is polyans. So that's, I repeat it again. The umbrella term is called FODMAPs, under which there are three carbohydrates or sugars, so to speak, and these are known as fructans, galactans and polyans. So together these three of them, they also cause a problem, and when they reach the small intestine, they are actually fermented by the bacteria, and there they cause a lot of cramping and gas and bloating and all the symptoms of the gluten intolerance. So it is also because of carbohydrates, and there have been many researchers that have spoken about this carbohydrate, that is the FODMAPs, and the amylopectin A, which is the carbohydrate which is present in the cereals, together, that they increase the flux of glucose in the blood plasma, thereby triggering insulin insensitivity response. So eventually leading to diabetes mellitus type 2. So it's not always about that protein gluten. It is also to do with the carbohydrates which are present in the cereals here. So hence it actually, for people who are overly insensitive to gluten and who feel that they experience a lot of indigestion and other related symptoms, to actually avoid, these cereals altogether, not just because of gluten, but also because of the other, carbohydrates which are present in this. And then of course these three are the conditions that I just mentioned. And other than this, there is also a reason, because we've been actually, bombarded with so much of information about gluten. I mean, wherever we read, it's like don't eat glutens, whether it's in the newspapers, it's in the magazines, it's on television, it's there on the YouTubes. Everybody's been talking about not having enough of gluten. No, one should not have gluten. So hence that information actually get absorbed by our cells, by our brain cells, and it triggers a neuro response which is known as nocebo effect. It is something like placebo effect. When we think that if something works well for us, it starts working well. That is how the nervous system response works at. So this one's known as nocebo effect. When you know that if I eat gluten, I'm going to fall sick, I will not lose weight, I'll get inflammation, I'll also become diabetic, and I will have a lot of bloating and indigestion and acid reflux problems. So that's known as nocebo effect. This is totally psychological, obviously, because of too much information that's coming around from everywhere around us. So that is also one of the reasons. So hence, to not read so much that it starts affecting us like that. So psychologically, you don't have to feel that gluten is always heavy for you, because like some of us have excellent bodies and an amazing digestive system. So we do not have any problem with the gluten as such. It's been ages, from eons of years, I think we've been eating gluten, and the normal rotis and pastas and bread and macaroni and all these things we've forever been eating, and different things that are made with these cereals as well. But we've not really got any kind of a problem. So if you have a perfect body, if there are no symptoms, if everything is going on well, then you don't need to actually stop gluten in any way, and it's not really affecting you negatively. So there is no, don't get into the nocebo effect. So now we'll talk about little bit about the symptoms of gluten. So in case you have this, you can actually get yourself checked. Okay, but my intention is not to make us hypochondriac that you know whatever information we read, जब भी हम किसी disease के बारे में पढ़ते हैं तो हमें लगता है कि हमको वही वाली disease तो नहीं है, तो ये नहीं होना चाहिए हमको. I mean, like, of course we have to be well informed about everything, especially people who are from the healthcare and all the healthcare professionals who are logged in, people who are from dietetics and nutrition background, people who are from the medical background. We need to know about everything, but that does not mean that we have it, I have it. It's not always like that. So avoid that nocebo effect and make your mind a little stronger, because all our lives we have to read and learn more about all these foods and medical conditions that we have. So hence now I can talk to you about the symptoms of gluten intolerance, or whenever gluten is you know, like playing a havoc in your body. So सबसे पहले digestive issues होते हैं. So when we talk about the digestive issues, उसमें you know, diarrhea is included, abdominal pain, inflammation, a person might suffer from constipation, ulcerative colitis, bloating, gas, cramps. So these are the symptoms as far as the digestive system is concerned. So there are also certain problems that happens in the skin, which are known as the skin conditions. So when I talk about the skin conditions, the common problems that we see are rashes, eczema, dermatitis, skin inflammation. So that, and psoriasis, yeah, I cannot forget that. That also happens as a result of gluten intolerance, or when we continuously take in the wheat. Then another, you know, set of symptoms can come as a result of neurological issues that can include confusion, fatigue, depression, difficulty in speaking, lack of focus, numbness, etc. So these are the neurological symptoms, and other than these three are also normal conditions that one may experience, like when somebody has a very low immune system, as in, because you know, we all know that intestinal health so much has to do with the immunity of our body. And T cells are the one, you know, which gets, you know, the synthesis of T cells, which are the high order lymphocytes. So these get triggered by the gut and the gut health. And the T cells in turn triggers the synthesis of B cells, which are also the other immunity generating cells. So T cells and B cells are the immune, they are immunity giving lymphocytes. Okay, or you can say that they are immune cells. So when we talk about these, of course, our gut health has major role to play. And of course, like when one is insensitive to gluten, when you do not, you know, body is not able to tolerate gluten, then the problem can happen, as in, like we can see the other symptoms also, like osteoporosis. There are many nutrient deficiencies, because आपकी intestine से अगर inflammation होती है तो जो आपके खाने में न्यूट्रिएंट्स थे वो ठीक से एब्जॉर्ब नहीं हो पाते हैं हमारे सर्कुलेटरी सिस्टम में, तो वो भी एक प्रॉब्लम हो जाती है. And especially to do with iron. Iron as a mineral is not able to actually get through, leading to iron deficiency anemia. And it has also been observed that headaches and migraines अगर बहुत ज़्यादा होते हैं, in those conditions also we tell a patient to stop gluten for a while. So these are some of the symptoms that we see as a result of gluten intolerance, or in case of celiac disease, or even wheat allergy, so to speak. So अगर wheat भी अगर हम बहुत ज़्यादा खाते हैं तो ये symptoms आ सकते हैं as a result of wheat. But it is not that they come only as a result. There are other reasons also why these may happen. You know, like migraine का सिर्फ एक reason नहीं हो सकता कि आप wheat खाते हो इसलिए migraine है. Migraine के और भी reasons हो सकते हैं. रात में नींद नहीं ठीक से पूरी होना, बहुत ज़्यादा chronic stress होना, उसकी वजह से भी migraine होता है. And also there are many other reasons because of which different ailments. Now diabetes जैसे है तो definitely हम ऐसे में कभी कभी, you know, sometimes in some cases in some patients we may stop giving them gluten for a while. So but it does not mean that diabetes is only because of eating wheat. It's not like that. But yes, wheat will definitely help in controlling and optimizing the blood sugar level as one of the reasons of optimizing the plasma glucose levels. So that is what it is. So now I'll talk to you about whether we should take gluten or not as normal people. So if everything is going right in your body, if your digestion is perfect, if you do not have any sleep disorder, if you do not have any digestive disorder, if you do not have recurrent migraines and headaches and everything is going fine, then there is no reasons to actually stop gluten. Then it is all going well in your body. But if there has been a problem that you're not able to lose weight, or there's a constant idiopathic obesity, like मोटापा बढ़ता जा रहा है in spite of the fact that आप बहुत ज़्यादा खाना नहीं खा रहे हो, तो ऐसे केसेस में डेफिनेटली हम ग्लूटेन को कम करने की कोशिश करेंगे. और अगर आपकी इम्यूनिटी बहुत ज़्यादा लो हो रही है तो ऐसे में भी हम ग्लूटेन को बंद करते हैं. And it's not like, or especially अगर CVD की problems है, that is hypertension, it can be high cholesterol or high triglycerides. So yeah, angina की history है, we would definitely bring down your gluten in the diet, or we will mix some other cereal with your gluten. So that is a way of actually bringing down the gluten. So ऐसे केसेस में कम इसलिए भी करना पड़ता है because out of all these, the two proteins which are there, glutenin and gliadin हमारी body के लिए it becomes heavy, and that is what actually triggers the immunological response. And also there has been research that have said that it raises your blood sugar level, especially in patients who are already susceptible and genetically predisposed to diabetes mellitus. So yes, because as I mentioned that gluten is a slightly inflammatory protein, but our bodies have learned to adapt and acclimatize to the intake of the gluten. हमारी बॉडी एक्चुअली बहुत ही बढ़िया मैकेनिक्स करती है. मतलब कोई भी चीज़ अगर हम कॉन्स्टेंटली लेते हैं, सो बॉडी उसको अडाप्ट कर लेती है टू बी एबल टू इंजेस्ट दैट वेरी वेल. सो अगर ये सारे सिम्टम्स नहीं हैं तो प्लीज़ कंटिन्यू टेकिंग योर व्हीट रोटीज एंड योर पॉरेज एंड suji upma and all those things that you've been taking all this while. It is only when we see that there are problems occurring, the ones that I mentioned especially, then you can actually bring down the gluten and you can actually remove wheat from your cereal intake and add some other cereal like bajra, jawar, रागी. इन सब में बिल्कुल ग्लूटेन नहीं होता, राइस में भी ग्लूटेन नहीं होता, तो हम वो ले सकते हैं इंस्टेड. तो इसीलिए हमको थोड़ा सा इट्स नॉट जस्ट ग्लूटेन, एज आई टोल्ड यू दैट कभी कभी लाइक वो एलर्जिक रिस्पॉन्स इसलिए भी होता है बिकॉज वो कार्बोहाइड्रेट से होता है, द वन दैट आई मेंशन राइट, द फॉडमैप्स. सो उसकी वजह से भी होता है, अमाइलोपेक्टिन की वजह से होता है बिकॉज अमाइलोपेक्टिन गेट्स वेरी वेल डिजेस्टेड बाय सलाइवरी अमाइलेज and then the pancreatic amylase and then the intestinal amylase. तो amylase तो निकलता भी बहुत जगह से है, right? So because of which the digestion of amylopectin बहुत अच्छे से होता है and it raises the flux of carbohydrates or glucose in the blood, जिसकी वजह से the response is that a lot of insulin gets released from the pancreas. Because this we know for the longest time that whenever there is a flux of glucose in the blood, अगर आपका डाइटरी ग्लूकोज बहुत ज़्यादा क्वांटिटी में एब्जॉर्ब होता है आपके ब्लड सर्कुलेटरी सिस्टम में, तो ऑब्वियसली इन रिस्पॉन्स टू सच अ हाई अमाउंट ऑफ ग्लूकोज दैट कम्स इनटू द ब्लड, more amounts of insulin hormone is going to release from your pancreas, which is normal. Dietary blood glucose का response ऐसा ही होता है and hyperinsulinemia की condition होती है जिसकी वजह से there would be weight gain. There also could be definitely insulin insensitivity happening over a period of time. So that is again another reasons. Then besides this, we all know that the cereal grains and the wheat is very rich in phytates, okay, which are the nutrient inhibitors. So we've heard about phytates and oxalates. So oxalates of course are present in the GLVs, which is the green leafy vegetables, but the other one phytates which are present in cereals. So wheat at times is pretty much in phytates, So it is a nutrient inhibitor, so it can trigger certain deficiencies because it won't allow a lot of nutrient to get absorbed into the main bloodstream. So although the wheat is pretty much cooked form, the way we consume it, it is in the form of roti, it can be in the form of porridge or whichever way, breads or pasta. So it's already cooked, so phytates definitely get lessened down. It's not all that much. And another thing that I want to especially share with you is that for a while I've been reading a lot of research papers which have shared that the gliadin component of gluten, so that actually reduces the leptin hormone. So we all know, let me talk to you a little bit about the leptin in case you don't know, and in case somebody is not our nutrition student, that leptin is a hormone that is released from your liver and hypothalamus in the brain, and it's a beautiful hormone that does only good for our body. It actually increases our basal metabolic rate, that is the metabolism, and it also controls the appetite, okay, like curbs the appetite, does not allow us to eat too much. So that is what leptin does for us. So overall a person has a lower BMI in a person who has a good amount of leptin that releases. So now it is said that the gliadin component of the gluten that actually inhibits the leptin or reduces the amount of leptin that releases from your hypothalamus, and as a result of that we will feel very hungry all the time. So if just had a meal, we'll be hungry again in about 1.5 hours, and again we eat something, suppose a bread or a biscuit, again we are hungry after a while. It is because of the leptin response going low, okay, and the metabolism also shuts down. So again, we've always known that carbohydrates actually reduces metabolism. So it's not that all the carbohydrates reduce metabolism. It is only the ones that contain, a good amount of gliadin component. So that actually, so gliadin of course is a protein. It's not a carbohydrate. I'm sorry, but yeah, gliadin actually reduces the leptin release and does not trigger the release of leptin. As a result of we go low on the metabolism, thereby triggering putting on weight, because whenever the metabolism goes low and whenever the BMI falls down, we put on more weight easily. And second effect is going to be that we'll feel overly hungry all the time. हमारा पेट नहीं भरता है, हमको पूरे टाइम भूख लगती है, हमने अभी कुछ खाया, अभी हमको थोड़ी देर में दोबारा भूख लग जाएगी. So obviously we end up eating more gluten, and we end up having more of protein gliadin, and we end up having more of fructans and polyals and galactans and amylopectinate. So carbohydrate भी हम ज़्यादा ले रहे हैं और हम ये ग्लूटेन प्रोटीन भी ज़्यादा ले रहे हैं, जिसके जो भी साइड इफेक्ट्स होते हैं वो होते हैं. तो इसीलिए in many conditions, like medical conditions, we actually try and bring down gluten, and especially when there are problems of weight not being able to go down, certain medical conditions like diabetes mellitus type 2, when there are certain skin conditions like psoriasis, depression, anxiety, not being able to focus well, then when the immunity goes very, very low, in cases of CVD, that is cardiovascular disorders, if you have an uncontrolled high cholesterol and high triglycerides and not being able to control it, under those cases, when we have too much of sleeping disorders, that's also when we kind of bring down the gluten. So yeah, these are the conditions, and it has been researched that our energy levels go very, very high when we actually avoid taking gluten. So it is just researched, although there are no evident theories, but yeah, there are many researchers that have actually correlated the energy levels to the regular intake of gluten. So that's also where, one of the effect can come as. So yes, I mean, in a way, it is like, better to avoid gluten if you have any of these symptoms, and you can avoid it for about a month, and you can switch over to the other cereals, and you can see how it goes. And there's a beautiful book I have been reading all this while. It's called Wheat Belly by Dr. William Davis, and which actually is pretty much an eye-opener. और उनके तो like he has, I don't remember the number of references of research papers he has given, because before writing this book he did a very thorough research on on all the research papers and seeing the response of wheat, gluten on the body, on various comorbidities that can happen to people. And then he finally wrote this book, and it pretty much says that, one should avoid gluten. And, in his book he had mentioned, from what I remember, is that all the rheumatoid arthritis, the occurrence of cancer, diabetes, the normal arthritis, osteoporosis, osteopenia, so obesity, so all these, comorbidities actually can reverse as a result of avoiding wheat. And that's what he had to say. And there are many YouTube videos from various scientists and authors who've been researching on gluten for many number of years, and they've all mentioned that it actually gives a positive impact in certain areas of our life, especially when it comes to comorbidities and the energy levels and the weight and everything. So yeah, personally speaking, I personally do not eat a lot of wheat also. I have drastically brought down wheat in my diet for the last 3.5 years, a little more than 3.5 years. And yes, there's been a surge of energy in my body also. And of course, as a person, health-wise, I don't even need to take a Disprin for a headache, so there are no medications in my life, because I've always preached and taught you all that your body is a pharmacy. Always provide that kind of a food so that all those pharmaceutical units within your body, they start opening up and they heal and repair. And to actually reduce all the allopathic drugs, which in itself are diseases that take away the gut bacteria. So unless you really need it, you can try and avoid it. But at least together, this is what we are trying to bring to you on behalf of VLCC, to actually make your pharmacy units in your body alive and working once again well. And let your body heal and repair all the things, wherever things are going wrong in your body itself, and feed good food to your body. And it's not so much to do just with what you're eating. Think well, think good. The thoughts and emotions that you carry also brings in a lot of negative impacts. So stay away from stress, which is very important. Balance your life, maintain a work-life balance, hydrate yourself well, because the brain function actually plays a very important role in the overall health as well, right? And the brain is 85% water. So hydrate yourselves well, keep your metabolism high, move more, all these things. So whenever I talk about any topic, it is not just that I want to bring you to. It's not just so much about we. It is so much that surrounds our lifestyle, okay, where we may be going wrong with. So when you do all those things, and then of course when we actually, anyhow, we are very fortunate to be living in a country where we have so many cereals. We have so many millets all around us. Please take those. They are mostly gluten-free as well. So, have millets in various forms. You can have quinoa. You can have lots of other cereals which are there. If you find quinoa very expensive, because that's not an indigenous grain for sure. It comes in from outside. We import it. India imports it. So you can actually, have lots of these millets that are grown all around us in India, So ragi is very good. Ragi definitely one of the richest sources of calcium and vitamin D put together. So ragi has much more calcium compared to the milk. Milk 100 grams would have 120 milligrams of calcium, whereas ragi has 345 milligrams of calcium against 120 which is there in milk. And it also is very rich in vitamin D and produces serotonin, is very rich in tryptophan. So tryptophan is a precursor of serotonin, which is a happy hormone. So वो mood elevated भी, आप खुश रहोगे, आपका दिमाग ठीक रहेगा, you'll be more joyful and more at ease all the time. So automatically, whatever you transmit through your nervous system is what gets absorbed by each and every cell of the body, because nervous system is your mesh. It's a network of all that energy. So it's an electromagnetic conduction, right? That's what we've taught you also for people who are doing our DDHN and other nutrition courses. I'm sure you become very thorough with the physiology of the body. So we've studied about the physiology of the body, that the nervous system are the nerves are connected to each and every tissue of the body, each and every cell of the body. So and nervous system is what? It's brain and your spinal cord. So whatever you're feeding into your brain is that's the information that's getting carried to each and every cell of your body. So whatever information, so always be joyful. Serotonin hormone, that's also coming because of, some of the cereals and ragi, as I mentioned. So yes, that will also give you a good immunological response, good digestive response, good nervous response. So yeah, so many. And of course, like not to forget, that's very rich in calcium and vitamin D. And other than that, we have bajra, we have corn, which is makka, and then bajra hai, jawar hai. So we have all these cereals that come in India. So please try and use these also. And of course, you can mix your cereal with the pulses, like with soya bean ka atta. You can mix it with quinoa ka atta. You can also mix it with sattu, which is chana. Sattu is also called the superfood of the world. Like now people are raving about the benefits of sattu. It's definitely very good, nutritionally and even otherwise, digestion wise. So yes, we can consume that. And but that is only if you feel that you need to actually cut down on glucose and you're having weight issues, digestive issues, neurological issues, sleep issues, cerebral pain issues. It's only then, or CVD or any other comorbidity in your body, you can try cutting down the glucose, the gluten related foods, and all the foods that actually are made up with refined flour especially. So yeah, that's what. And so then if you feel that, so after not having taken gluten for a while, like in a month's time, if you feel that you've gone down in terms of your acid reflux, inflammation, joint pain, psoriasis, depression, migraines, all those reasons, then you can actually for a while continue with a little less intake of gluten. And when you want to start it, you can start it like in a little lesser amount, or mix with the other pulses or pulse grains and whatever, mix it together, and then you can consume it. And try and avoid all the things that are made with that, and I'm sure that you're going to get better and feel better. And in certain neurological conditions, like when the children have the problems, so even when mental problems, any kind of a mental problem when children are born with, so even in those cases we avoid giving them gluten, because gluten does induce inflammation to a certain extent, especially the gliadin component, the gliadin protein of the gluten does that for us. So yeah, that is what it is, and that's what I have to share about gluten with all of you. And now I would be talking to you about, want to take a little bit of a time and talk to you about the webinar from the yoga health that we would like to bring for all of you. The webinar is going to, so there's a webinar on 16th of October, which is the next Saturday. That 16th October webinar, it is called the Science of Chakras. And because it is said in the yogic world that any kind of an imbalance in the chakra leads to trigger some of the other. So whatever physiological problems that we have in our body, could be medical, could be physiological, could be that you don't feel too hungry, could be that you're eating too much, could be that there's obesity, could be that you're very attached to things, material things around you, you're not able to, or you attach to people so much that it actually pains you a lot. So in the yogic world, we say that it's all as a result of the chakra imbalance. So we thought of, on behalf of VLCC, to bring the Science of Chakras and let you know more about the chakras. So that is what we have. The timings of the webinar is 10 to 1 a.m. next Saturday, and of course I will be conducting it, and along with me will also be our National Yoga trainer Rohit Mishra. So together both of us are going to bring that to you. So and then of course, like, it's a certified webinar, there's a cost attached to it. It's about for 1275 plus taxes. So you can contact your nearest VLCC institute to know more, and in case you want to know the topics that we would be covering, you can actually talk to any of your the VLCC institute staff, and they will be able to help you out with more information. And also on 16th is this, on 15th we have a global webinar which is on PCOS. So every 15th every month 15th we bring you a global webinar that's broadcast not just here in India. And me along with the team of doctors from VLCC and outside in India, we bring one topic each time. So last time of course it was cardiovascular disorders, and this time it is PCOS. So that is going to happen on 15. That's free of cost for everybody. The link will be shared to all VLCC institutes, and please take it from them and definitely try and log in and share it with the others who suffer from a problem of PCOS. And it starts at 11:30 a.m. So it will be there on the Zoom platform, and we will be sharing the link with you. And since it's free of cost, you can actually let everybody know, because it's an attempt on behalf of VLC to actually transform health in the society. So hence, every 15, so this is the third consecutive month where we'll be bringing a live webinar for all of you with a team of expert doctors from VLCC and outside. And 16th of course is on behalf of VLCC, will be bringing you the science of chakra, and I'd rather rename is at the healing science of chakra, because actually heals and chakras are magical. Once you get to know of it, I can guarantee that you're going to enjoy that. So yes, let me just take on a few questions. So first question is gluten restricted for PCOS? Yeah, we do, because PCOS, that triggers insulin insensitivity. And the first treatment that we start in PCOS is not really endocrinal, but we're actually very concerned about a person getting into the diabetes mode. So yes, as I mentioned that yes, please avoid gluten as much as you can. You don't have to stop it altogether, but you can actually bring it down at least in one of the meals if you can, and you'll definitely see a difference. So is gluten restricted in kidney stones? Partially yes. There have been researchers, and what I've read even in Wheat Belly, that book by Dr. William, where he's actually mentioned that kidney stones actually also happens because of excessive intake of wheat. So he's not really mentioned gluten, but yeah, it's because of the wheat. So it is, but then kidney stone अगर हो गया है तो प्लीज उसका ट्रीटमेंट कराइए आप इमिडिएटली. वो सिर्फ वीट रेस्ट्रिक्ट करने से किडनी स्टोन ठीक नहीं होगा, बिकॉज अभी वो ऑलरेडी हो चुका है. So you will have to go for your treatment, or go for laparoscopic surgery and have it removed, or you can go for any treatment that your doctor advises you. Please don't just bank only on gluten. Gluten helps in spondylitis cervical. Well, not really. Gluten doesn't really have so much to do with cervical. Cervical reason is something else. So please go in for get your vitamin B12 tested for sure, and start with your Neurobion or whatever your doctors advised you, because that is how it's going to get control. Basically, most of the neurological abnormalities in your body, if it's happening these days, it has been found it's also happening because of vitamin B12 deficiency, because the nervous system runs on vitamin B12, which is also known as cyanocobalamin. And अगर किसी को anemia भी है, so don't always take it to gluten only because I've said it. I've just said one of the symptoms, So it's not that that's the only reason. So अगर किसी को anemia भी होता है, anemia का भी reason vitamin B12 होता है, because cyanocobalamin का deficiency triggers all the three anemias. We know that, right? So also the iron deficiency anemia, it triggers pernicious and megaloblastic anemia. So all three happen because of deficiency of cyanocobalamin, and that's actually going wrong. Why? Because B12 is manufactured in your gut, that is in your colon, in your intestine, and intestine में जो gut bacteria होते हैं वो ये बनाते हैं. But the gut bacteria are going exceptionally low these days because of the kind of diet, lifestyle, and so much of stress that we have. So bring down your stress. Be happy. Stress has never solved anything for anybody. Okay, it is only spoiling your health, and it is giving you lots of other responses which are only negative. So इसलिए just chill, enjoy your life, lead a great life, work out a lot, which is very very important. Move around a lot. I always say that the largest part in your body are your legs, so please use them more. अगर आप legs को बहुत ज़्यादा use करेंगे तो अपने आप ही आपकी body में बहुत सारी समस्याओं का समाधान हो जाता है. तो इसलिए अपने legs को बहुत ज़्यादा use कीजिए. Move around, walk, run. All that is going to release happy hormones in your brain, so in your brain and then in your body. and we will see the stress levels are gradually going down, and the dominant hormones in your body then start, like the happy hormones are the dominant hormones in your body, and then you see that overall you are able to face any kind of a challenge. It doesn't really negatively affect you. How acha, you want to contact, so I'm here with you, so if you really want to contact me, you can please write in your number in the chat box here, and I'll surely get in touch with you. That's a promise. And for whatever reasons you wish to, so leave your number behind with your name and we'll get in touch with you. So, and we'll get in touch with you. You can give me 2 days. Within 2 days I'm going to get in touch with you. So yeah, that's about it. And if you want to know anything, to know more about your courses, and if you are from our cosmetology categories, or if you are not a student with VLCC Institute, you can actually log into our website www.vlccinstitute.com, and you can get to know more about the courses. If you want to know more about the nutrition courses, we have 6 of them. We have 4 regular courses which are also running online right now, and we have 2 distance learning courses. So 6 courses, of course DDHN, which are professional course, after which you become a dietitian. So we have that as an apex course, and of course we have sports and fitness nutrition, clinical nutrition, and weight management and slimming therapies. So these are our primary courses, and then we have 2 distance learning, which are childcare nutrition and certificate in nutrition dietetics. So these are our 6 courses, and you can know more about them. You can contact your nearest institute, and there's a form that you can fill on our website itself, and somebody is going to get in touch with you. So that's about it. You can look up for your nearest institute, and that's about it for today. And I hope you really enjoyed today's session. Gluten has forever been my favorite topic also, and I'm sure it's going to help you in knowing more about and whom to give it to and whom not to give it to. And thank you so much for all your love and support. So on behalf of VLCC, this is Dr. Deepti signing off, and have a great weekend. Again, work out more. Saturday, Sundays are the only days when we can actually work out without looking at the watch. So work out as long as you can over the weekends. Eat right, enjoy, stay well hydrated, and sleep well, and eat mindfully. And thank you so much, and see you around on next Friday, which is also the Dussehra Day, 15th for the global webinar, and on the 16th for the science of chakras. So thank you so much. See you. Take care.